Hello guys, welcome to iTutor Academy. In today's session, we will start with the subsection of 8.7 that is performance appraisal method. In last videos, we already discussed this unit starting, introduction and its objective, etc. So this section looks at how management can actually establish performance standards and devise instruments that can be used to measure and appraise an employee's performance. A number of methods are now available to assess the performance of the employee. Critical incident method. First one is the critical incident appraisal focuses the rater's attention on those critical or key behavior that make the difference between doing a job effectively and doing it ineffectively. What the appraiser does is write down little anecdotes that describe what is the employee did that was especially effective or ineffective. In this approach to appraisal, specific behavior are cited, not vaguely defined personality traits. A behaviorally based appraisal such as this should be more valid than trait based appraisal because it is clearly more job related. It is one thing to say that an employee is aggressive or imaginative or relaxed, but that does not tell anything about how well the job is being done. And this method suffers from following two drawbacks. First one is supervisors are reluctant to write these reports on a daily or even weekly basis for all of their subordinate as it is time consuming and burdensome for them. Next is critical incident do not lend themselves to qualification, therefore the comparison and ranking of subordinate is difficult. Second is checklist. In the checklist, the evaluator uses a bit of behavioral descriptions and checks of those behaviors that apply to the employee. The evaluator merely goes down the list and give yes or no responses. Once the checklist is complete, it is usually evaluated by the staff of personnel department, not the rater himself. And third one is graphic rating scale. One of the oldest and most popular method of appraisal is the graphic rating scale. They are used to assess factors such as quantity and quality of work, job knowledge, cooperation and loyalty, dependability, attendance, honesty, integrity, attitude and initiatives, etc. However, this method is most valid when abstract traits like loyalty or integrity are avoided unless they can be defined in more specific behavioral terms. Should ambiguity occur, bias is introduced. Following are some of the advantage of this method. First one is they are less time consuming to develop and administer. Second is they permit quantitative analysis. Third is there is greater standardization of items, so comparability with other individual in diverse job category is possible. And fourth one is forced choice method. The forced choice appraisal is a special type of checklist, but the rater has to choose between two or more statements, all of which may be favorable or unfavorable. The appraiser's job is to identify which statement is most, or some cases least, descriptive of the individual being evaluated. To reduce bias, the right answers are not known to the rater. Someone in the personnel department scores the answers based on the key. This key should be validated so management is in a position to say that individuals with the higher scores are better performing employees. The major advantages of the forced choice methods are: first one is since the appraiser does not know the right answer, it reduces bias. Second is it looks at overall performance. Third is it is based on the behavior of the employees. And fifth is the behaviorally anchored rating scale. This scale combines major elements from the critical incident and graphic rating scale approaches. The appraiser rate the employees based on item along continuum, but the points are examples of actual behavior on the given job, rather than general descriptions or traits. Behaviorally anchored rating scale specify definite, observable, and measurable job behavior. And the result of the above process are behavior descriptions such as anticipates, plan executive, solve immediate problems, carries out orders, and handle emergency situations. This method has following advantages. It does tended to reduce rating errors. It assesses behavior over traits. It clarifies to both the employee and rater which behavior cannot good performance and which cannot bad. And the group order ranking. The group order ranking requires the evaluator to place employees into a particular classification such as top one fifth or second one fifth. Evaluators are asked to rank the employees in the top 5%, the next 5%, the next 15%. And it has the following disadvantages also. It is not good if the number of employees being compared is small. At the extreme, if the evaluator is looking at only 4 employees, it is very possible that they may all be excellent. Yet the evaluator may be forced to rank them into top quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and low quarter. Second is another disadvantage which plagues all relative measures is the zero sum game consideration. This means that any change must add up to zero. For example, if there are 12 employees in a department performing at different levels of effectiveness, by definition, 3 are in the top quarter and 3 in the second quarter, and so forth. The sixth best employee, for instance, would be in the second quartile. And ironically, if two of the workers in the third or fourth quartile leave the department and are not replaced, then our sixth best employee now fit into the third quarter. Because comparison are relative, an employee who is mediocre may score high only because he or she is the best of the worst. Similarly, an excellent performer who is matched against stiff competition may be evaluated poorly when in absolute terms his or her performance is outstanding. And seventh one is individual ranking. The individual ranking method requires the evaluator merely to list all the employees in an order from highest to lowest. Only one can be the best if the evaluator is required to appraise 30 individuals. Ranking method carried the same pulses and minuses as group order ranking. Next is paired comparison. The paired comparison method is calculated by taking the total of n into n minus 1 and divided by 2 comparison. A score is obtained for each employee by simply continuing the number of pairs in which the individual is the preferred member. Next is management by objective. Management by objective, that is MBO, is a process that converts organizational objectives into individual objectives. It can be thought of as consisting of 4 steps: goal setting, action planning, self control, and periodic reviews. In goal setting, the organization's overall objectives are used as guidelines from which departmental and individual objectives are set. And in action planning, the means are determined for achieving the ends established in goal settings. And self control refers to the systematic monitoring and measuring of performance. Finally, with periodic progress review, corrective action is initiated when behavior deviates from the standard established in the goal setting phase. And following are the advantages of MPO. It is a result oriented. It assesses the planning and control functions and provides motivations. Second is employees know exactly what is expected of them and how they will be evaluated. And the third one is employees have a greater commitment to objectives that they have participated in developing than to those unilaterally set by their bosses. And next is 360-degree appraisal. The 360-degree feedback process involves collecting perception about a person's behavior and the impact of that behavior from the person's boss or bosses, direct reports, colleagues, fellow members of project teams, internal and external customers, and suppliers. And the people who are chosen as rates are usually those that interact routinely with the person receiving feedback. The purpose of the feedback is to assist each individual to understand his or her strength and weakness and contribute insight into aspect of his or her work needing professional development. And followings are some of the major consideration in using 360-degree feedback. These are basically concerned with how to select a feedback tool and process, select the raters, use the feedback, review the feedback, and manage and integrate the process into larger performance management system. Features of 360-degree appraisal. Organizations that are using with the 360-degree component of their performance management system identify following positive features of the process. These features will manifest themselves in well managed, well integrated 360-degree process. First one is improved feedback from more sources. Second is team development. Third is personal and organizational performance development. And fourth one is responsibility for career development. Fifth is reduced discrimination risk. Sixth is improved customer services. And last one is training needs assessment. And benefits of 360-degree appraisal. Following benefits of 360-degree appraisal accrue to the individual, team, and organizations. To the individual, this process helps individual to understand how others perceive them, and it uncovers blind spots. It provides feedback that is essential for learning. Individuals can better manage their own performance and careers, and quantifiable data on soft skills is made available to the team. It increases communication between team members. It generates higher level of trust and better communication as individuals identify the causes of breakdowns. It creates better team environment as people discover how to treat others and how they want to be treated. And it supports teamwork by involving team members in the development of process. It increased team effectiveness. To the organization, it reinforced the corporate culture and openness and trust. And next is it provides better opportunity for career development for employees. And third one is employee get growth and promotional opportunities. It improve customer service by having customers contribute to evaluation. And in the final, it facilitates the conduct of relevant training programs. And performance counseling. The main objective of performance counseling is to help the employee to overcome his weakness and to reinforce his strength. In this sense, it is a developmental process where the supervisor and the subordinate discuss the past performance with the view to help the subordinate to improve and become more effective in future. Feedback can be effective tool provided. Both negative and positive feedback are communicated. It is not just an opinion but is backed by data. In other words, it should be descriptive and not evaluative. It focuses on behavior rather than on the individuals. It is timely. Delayed feedback is neither helpful nor effective. On the other hand, it might be seen as criticism, which may further deteriorate the relationship. As time passes, details are forgotten and recall may be jeopardized by distortions. And several conditions for effective counseling are identified. The following are some of the important ones. A climate of openness and trust is necessary. When people are tense and hostile, attempt should be made to counsel and help rather than be critical, and the counselor should be tactful and helpful rather than critical and fault finding. and the subordinate should feel comfortable to participate without any hesitation or inhibition. And the focus should be on the work related problem and difficulties rather than personality or individuals like dislikes or crisis. And it should be devoid of all discussions on salary, reward, and punishment. Any discussion on compensation changes the focus from performance improvement to the relationship between performance and reward. Since counseling is a difficult activity, the supervisor should be specially trained in social competence to handle this aspect of his job. Many supervisors are hesitate to initiate performance counseling sessions because the subordinates may raise uneasy questions for which they may not have answers. One major outcome of performance counseling is identification of the potential of the employees, skills and abilities not known and utilized by the organization. And the distinct advantage of thoroughly carried out potential appraisal are given below. First one is the organization are able to identify the individuals who can take higher responsibility, and it also convey the message that people are not working in dead end jobs in the organization. Okay. And the next is the career path. And one of the important objective of appraisal, particularly potential appraisal, is to help employees to move upward in the organization. The people do not like to work on dead end jobs, and career path can be two kinds. First one is those where designation changes to a higher level position, job remaining more or less the same. A good example of this is found in teaching institutions where an assistant professor may grow to become associate professor and a professor, but the nature of job, that is teaching and research, remain the same. And the next is those where change in the position bring about changes in job along with increased salary, status, and better benefit and working conditions. One important mechanism to identify the promotability of employees is assessment center. It is a method which uses a variety of techniques to evaluate employees for manpower requirement in the organization. It uses situational tests including exercises requiring participants to prepare written reports after analyzing management problem, make oral presentation, answer mail or memo in basket situation, and a whole lot of situational decision making exercises. Assessors observe the behavior and make independent reports of their evaluation of the strength and weakness of the attributes being studied. Okay, so this is about today's session. Next section we will discuss on next video onwards. And if you have any doubts, you can contact our contact number also. Okay, thank you so much.